Early November 1941, Shanghai. Sifang Bookstore. There were not many customers in the bookstore. The clerk A. Yuan was dozing behind the counter with his arms crossed. The empty store seemed a little deserted, with only 3 or 2 customers wandering between the bookshelves. Xia Zhu sat on the bench by the window, casually flipping through the newspapers on the table. The bookstore owner's surname is Tang. He is a short, fat, middle-aged man in his 40s. You can't tell where he is from just by listening to his accent. But he must have lived in Shanghai for a long time because he can understand many old Shanghai dialects that Xia Zhu finds difficult to speak. "Miss Xia, are you waiting for your father again?" Boss Tang walked out of the back room of the bookstore and greeted every customer. "Xia Zhu, I'm so sorry. I wait here every day. I don't know if it will disturb your business." Boss Tang smiled. "My business is very light, so there won't be any interruptions. Miss Xia, you can do whatever you want." Xia Zhu noticed that the young man who followed Boss Tang came out of the room, holding a thick book of 3 kingdoms in his hand. When passing Xia Zhu, the young man nodded slightly. Xia Zhu blushed and turned her head away. When the young man was about to walk out of the bookstore, Xia Zhu couldn't help but look at his back again. Xia Zhu met him several times at Sifang Bookstore, and he would buy 1 or 2 books each time. For Xia Zhu, who loved reading, this big-eyed young man who loved reading would inevitably attract her special attention. Xia Zhu's father was an employee of the city telephone office. Every day after get off work, he would ride his bicycle to school to pick Xia Zhu home. Because of the cold weather in winter, Xia Zhu waited for her father in the Sifang bookstore, which was very close to the school. Xia Zhu stood in front of the window, looking at the direction where her father was leaving get off work. If there was no special delay, her father would definitely appear at the door of the bookstore on time. He had done so for 10 years and never changed. Wherever she looked, Xia Zhu saw the young man holding Romance of the 3 Kingdoms standing at the tram stop in front of the bookstore, looking around casually as if waiting for the tram. Pedestrians were coming and going on the street, fruit vendors were selling their fruits to the crowd, shoe polishers were working hard to wax and polish customers' shoes, and half-year-old children carrying cigarette boxes were selling cigarettes to everyone who came and went. Everything was as usual, without any difference. Xia Zhu even smiled friendly after meeting the eyes of the kid selling cigarettes. The child's name is Huzi, an orphan who makes a living by selling a few packs of cigarettes every day. Huzi has a sweet mouth and is diligent. Every time he brings cigarettes to Boss Tang, he will call out to Xia Zhu, "Sister Xia Zhu, you are reading a book. Sister Xia Zhu, are you here to buy books again?" And so on. My father finally appeared on the street. He was wearing a thick scarf and pedaling hard on his bicycle. There was a fresh fish tied to the handlebar of the bicycle. When going out in the morning, her father asked Xia Zhu what she wanted to eat at night. Xia Zhu said she wanted to drink the most delicious sour and sweet fish soup in the world. My father smiled and said, "Okay." Xia Zhu always exaggeratedly called the fresh fish soup cooked by her father the most delicious in the world. In Xia Zhu's heart, this was not an exaggeration, because she felt that the fresh fish soup cooked by her father was indeed the best fresh fish soup she had ever tasted. When his father was about to cross the road, he stopped because a silver-gray car was driving over. Xia Zhu's father got off his bicycle and waited for the car to pass. Xia Zhu's father also noticed his daughter in the glass window of the bookstore. He smiled and pointed at the fresh fish on the handlebar. At this time, a military truck suddenly rushed out of the diagonal stab. The car that was going straight could not avoid it. With a bang, the passenger door of the car was hit by the truck and a large dent was made. 2 soldiers got off the military truck. They seemed to be very angry and came over cursing. The driver of the car also got out of the car, and the 2 sides argued about the responsibility for the accident. Xia Zhu's father didn't glance at these people. He was pushing his bicycle and was about to cross the street. Xia Zhu was in the bookstore and was about to open the door to come out. At this moment, Xiaju was stunned because she saw the man in military uniform suddenly pulled out a pistol and fired several shots into the car. Then 2 people rushed out of the car and fired back. Xiaju stopped. This was a scene she had never experienced before. The banging sound of gunshots stunned her. And then she saw a scene that she would never forget. The father who was about to cross the road swayed and slowly sat on the ground, clutching his chest. A ricochet accidentally hit him, and blood instantly stained his gown. The bicycle lost its support and fell at his feet. The fresh fish jumped on the ground. The shooting ended quickly, and the 2 people who rushed out of the car fell to the ground. A soldier quickly took a look at the situation inside the car, and then glanced at Xiaju's father, who was affected. He paused briefly, and at the urging of his companion, he immediately ran into the alley. Xiaju ran out in panic, ran to her father's side, supported her father's body, and asked in a trembling voice, "Dad, what do you think?" The father coughed, sat up straight with difficulty, and forced a smile. "It's okay. It's just fresh fish soup. I'm afraid I can't make it." Xiaju's tears flowed down. "Dad, what do you care about the fresh fish soup? I will take you to the hospital." "Jur, don't be busy now. I have something to tell you. If there is anything wrong with me, you remember to find your mother? Your mother's name is by Magnolia, and she lives at number 60 Xiafei Road." "Dad, didn't you say that my mother died long ago?" "I originally thought she was dead. It was Dad's fault. Dad lied to you." With a plop, the rear door of the car was opened, and a man covered in blood knocked out of the door. He slowly sat up and pulled out a pistol from his waist, leaning weakly on the door, but looking around with wary eyes. Xiaju was so frightened that she didn't dare to move, and looked at this man covered in blood at a loss. Boss Tang from the bookstore shouted from across the street, "Ms. Xia, do you want to help?" Xiaju cried and said, "Boss Tang, can you help me find a car? My father was shot, and he seems like he can't hold on anymore." Boss Tang, "Okay, Miss Xia, don't panic. I'll call a car right away. Is anyone else injured?" The person leaning against the car door waved his hand towards Xiaju, but Xiaju didn't see it and said, "There is another person who is also injured." Boss Tang agreed. "Okay, I'll call a taxi. You wait a moment." Xiaju noticed that her father's face was getting uglier, and his lips were turning purple. "Dad, don't scare me. What's wrong with you?" "I just feel a little cold." Xiaju raised her head to see if Boss Tang had found the car. When she looked up, she saw the young man holding 3 kingdoms walking over quickly without saying a word. Xiaju looked at him blankly. "You." However, the young man did not come for Xiaju. He suddenly opened the 3 kingdoms and found that the inside of the book was hollow, and there was a pistol hidden in the middle of the hollow. The young man raised the gun neatly and quickly turned the front of the car. Amidst Xiaju's screams, bang, 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 3 shots were fired in succession. The man leaning against the car door didn't even have a chance to fight back, so he fell to the ground, with large pools of blood flowing out from the back of his head. The young man did not delay, put the pistol back in the book, turned around and returned to the other side of the road. Just in time to catch a tram, he jumped on the bus and left on the tram as if nothing happened. Boss Tang hurried over with a cart. "Miss Xia, help your father get on the cart quickly." Xiaju's face was filled with tears, and she was already sobbing. "My father, he is no longer alive." The sharp sound of the patrol whistle came from far and near. Several corpses were lying around the car. Xiaju helplessly hugged her father's body and cried loudly. The whole sky was gray, and there was not a trace of sunshine. The winter in Shanghai seemed particularly cold in this evening. Xiaju's house is located in the north of Jing'an Temple. During the Battle of Songhu, half of the remaining 2-story single-story building was cut off by artillery shells. Xiaju walked upstairs slowly, her face a little dull, and she had no tears left due to excessive sadness. Opening the door, the empty room seemed to be filled with sadness. Xiaju did not turn on the light. She sat in the darkness and couldn't help sobbing again. Suddenly, there was a sigh in the darkness. Xia Ju stood up from the sofa in shock and quickly picked up a vase beside her. Who? The lights turned on, and the young man armed with a gun during the day was standing at the door. Miss Xia, you don't have to be afraid, it's me. Xia Ju flinched. Who are you? I don't recognize you. The young man smiled bitterly. It doesn't matter whether you recognize me or not. He put a letter of silver dollars on the table. It is a pity today that your father unfortunately suffered an accident during our operation. This is our little thought. Please accept it, Miss Xia. Xia Ju stared at him warily. You, who are you? Young man, we are the anti-traitor team of the military. What we killed today was a heinous traitor. Everything was going perfectly. The only surprise was that your father was innocently involved. Xia Ju put down the vase dejectedly and sat on the sofa again. She had heard from her father that there were always some traitors who worked for the Japanese and would be executed by the military commander or even the CCP's spy organization. She didn't expect to see it with her own eyes today. Miss Xia, this incident is indeed an accident. We are also very sorry. We hope you will express your condolences. Let's go. No matter how sorry you are, you can't exchange for my father's life. Miss Xia. Let's go. If you don't leave, I'm going to call someone. The young man was silent for a while, then opened the door and walked out. As the footsteps in the corridor gradually faded away, Xia Ju covered her face with her hands and fell into great grief again. Under the light, every scene and thing in the room made Xia Ju feel doubly sad, because everything in the room bore traces of her father. Nowadays, things have changed, and the more she sees these, the more sad and desolate she becomes. Chapter 2, Coachman Han San. After burying her father, Xia Ju's life suddenly fell into chaos. In the past, Xia Ju didn't find it difficult to see her father taking care of some trivial matters at home. Now that all these things happened to her, she realized that what her father had to do every day was so complicated and troublesome. Not to mention anything else, just the daily meals became a big problem for Xia Ju. The kerosene stove had to be lit several times before it was lit. It was her first time cooking. Xia Ju didn't know what to make, so she bought a fresh fish at the vegetable market and made a bowl of fresh fish soup according to her father's usual recipe. Feeling that all the condiments were put in and the time was up, she picked up the spoon and tried to take a sip of the fish soup. As soon as she took her mouth, a bitter, salty, and strong fishy smell made Xia Ju spit it out immediately and knocked over the fish pot in her panic. The fish pot clattered to the ground, and the prepared fish soup was spilled all over the floor. Xia Ju looked at the mess in front of her and muttered to herself, "It's better if you sprinkle it, otherwise you won't be able to eat it." After she finished speaking, she thought of her father again and couldn't help but squat on the ground and burst into tears. No matter what, life must go on. After cleaning up the smelly house, Xia Ju began to sit on the bed and think about her future. Suddenly, she remembered what her father had told her before he died, telling her that her mother was in Shanghai and that she should go find her. Otherwise, it would be too inconvenient for a girl to live in this troubled world. Xia Ju never thought that her mother was still alive in the world because, in her memory, she never saw her mother again when she was just 5 or 6 years old. When she grew older, her father only said that her mother was dead. As for why she died and where she was buried, her father remained silent. Magnolia, number 60, Xiafei Road. Xia Ju muttered these words in her heart. Xiafei Road is an area where rich people gather in Shanghai. How could her mother live there? And why are you so close, and why don't you come to see me after more than 10 years? What is the insurmountable estrangement between father and mother that they have not communicated with for so many years? One mystery after another puzzled Xia Ju. But no matter what, Xia Ju decided to meet the mother she had not seen for many years. For no other reason than she wanted to solve her confusion. The change of a title that had disappeared for more than 10 years from vagueness to clarity made Xia Ju's heart even more eager to see her mother. Early the next morning, Xia Ju tidied up briefly and hurried downstairs. At the food stall at the entrance of the alley, I ordered a piece of oyster omelet with moist pancakes. Because she hadn't eaten all day and night, Xiaoju was woken up by hunger twice in her sleep last night. Her hunger made her feel weak with sadness. With a full stomach, she felt much more energetic. Looking at several rickshaws parked at the street corner, Xiaoju hesitated whether to take the bus or not. Because her father reminded her when he was still alive that almost 100% of these rickshaw drivers were members of the youth gang. If there was no need, it would be better to provoke them as little as possible. In the past 20 years, Xiaoju has basically been between home and school. The means of transportation she takes are either her father's bicycle or the tram. When the weather is nice, she just walks. She rarely takes a rickshaw. The rickshaw driver noticed Xiaoju's hesitation, and a muscular man with a northern accent asked loudly, "Miss, do you want to take a taxi? Taking my car will ensure that you are fast and stable, better than the foreign car." The driver's joke made Xiaoju relax. Besides, she really didn't know the road. Xiafei Road was so big, how could she know where number 60 was? "Number 60 Xiafei Road," Xiaoju said. "Hey, that's where rich people live. I have to run several times a day." The coachman enthusiastically and thoughtfully wiped the dust on the car seat with a towel. His car was indeed fast and stable, and he was actually chatting with Xiaoju while jogging. "Miss, you live on Xiafei Road. You look rich and noble, but you are not as poor as us. You are so down and out." "Xiaoju, I'm looking for someone. How can I afford that place?" The coachman spat and immediately changed his words. "That's right. How can there be any good people living in that place? Apart from traders, they are Japanese and Western devils. Who are you looking for?" Although the driver was a bit talkative, Xiaoju still answered him patiently, remembering her father's instructions. "I'm going to find my mother." The coachman cheered and said, "Look at my stupid mouth. I'm going around and around to get myself in. I can't speak, so don't pick on me." Xiaoju said, "Don't blame those who don't know. Besides, I don't even know." Xiaoju wanted to say, "I don't even know if she is a good person or a bad person," but she swallowed the words as she was not sure, so why mention it in front of strangers? Then Xiaoju finally couldn't help her curiosity and asked cautiously, "I heard that all of you rickshaws are from gangs. Is it true?" The driver chuckled and said, "If you don't join a gang, you won't be able to do this job in Shanghai. There's nothing you can do about it. You'll be bullied wherever you go." After talking and talking, the coachman stopped the car far away in front of a white Western-style building and said, "Miss, you are here. Not far ahead is number 60 Xiafei Road, but our car does not dare to go forward. You have to walk there by yourself." Xiaoju asked strangely, "Why?" The coachman took the reserve coupon given by Xiaoju, put it together with the money in his pocket, patted his hand and said, "I have to buy food quickly with this money. If I don't get enough money, I can buy a bowl of rice now, but I can only buy half a bowl of rice in the afternoon. Why? Because there are soldiers standing guard in front, and outside vehicles are strictly prohibited from approaching." Xiaoju snorted and said, "Thank you very much." Xiaoju walked along the smooth bluestone road towards the white Western-style building. This place was indeed different from the civilian area. The surrounding trees, flowers, and plants were all artificially trimmed, and there were beautiful street lamps not far away. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Xiaoju wouldn't have believed that Shanghai, which had been bombed so violently, could still have such an elegant and clean place. Two soldiers in military uniforms looked at Xiaoju timidly approaching and shouted, "Stop, little girl, don't go any further. Entry is strictly prohibited if you are not a resident here." "Error 500, server error." 1500, that's an error, there was an error. "Please try again later, that's all we know." "Error 500, server error." 1500, that's an error, there was an error. "Please try again later, that's all we know." "Error 500, server error." 1500, that's an error, there was an error. "Please try again later, that's all we know." What about white magnolia and purple magnolia? There aren't even roses here. Let's go, let's go. We're looking for the wrong place. "Did you make a mistake?" My father clearly told me that she was here. My father would not lie to me. Who is your father? My father is a liar. My father also told me that being a soldier means you can be dignified and dignified, but now I am standing here as a watchdog. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. Xia Zhu glared at him angrily and walked forward faster. Coachman, bah, look at my bad memory, and I forgot that you came here to see your mother. Did you remember the wrong address? Could it be number 6, number 16, Shafei Road, and there is another Xiaguang Road across 2 roads? Xia Zhu recalled it carefully. She was panicked at the time, and she was really not sure whether she heard the address correctly, so she said, "Okay, I'll trouble you to ask me in these places." The driver was delighted, put down the handlebar neatly, and said, "When I meet you today, it's like meeting a noble person. It saves me a day of running around and not getting much work." "Miss, you're a student. My name is Han San from Peiping. When you use your car from now on, just call Han San at the street corner. As long as I am nearby, I guarantee that I won't delay your business." People from Peiping, why did you come to Shanghai again? Beiping was occupied by the Japanese. I thought to myself that we couldn't be subjugated slaves, so I ran all the way south. Unexpectedly, the National Army ran faster than me along the way. When we arrived in Shanghai, we didn't stop for a few days and still became subjugated slaves. Xia Zhu began to think that what Han San said was very interesting and unknowingly followed his words and asked, "Then why don't you continue running?" Han San said angrily, "I don't believe that your little devil can really destroy China. I won't run away yet, and I will wait in Shanghai for the day of liberation." Chapter 3, The Mysterious Food Delivery Person. Han San drove the car and Xia Zhu to several places, but all returned without success. Not to mention by Magnolia, no one had heard of this name at all. Xia Zhu began to wonder if her father was confused and talking nonsense before he died. If that were the case, there would be no need to continue searching. After paying Han San's fare, Xia Zhu returned to her home. She felt a little tired from running around all morning, so she lay down on the bed and stretched her body as much as possible. The warm winter sun shines in through the glass window, and the sun shines on the body. The warm feeling is very comfortable and gradually makes people feel sleepy. After a while, Xia Zhu fell into sleep without knowing it. In a daze, Xia Zhu was awakened by a knock on the door. Xia Zhu rubbed her eyes and sat up, asking, "Who is it?" "Xia Zhu, it's me, Shen Junchen." A male voice outside answered. Shen Junchen is Xia Zhu's classmate and a boy who is close to Xia Zhu in school. Xia Zhu simply tidied the bed and walked over to open the door. Outside the door was Shen Junchen with slicked back hair, carrying a cotton bag with a lunch box in his hand. "I heard from the teacher that something happened to your family, and I feel really sorry for you. I saw that you haven't been to school these 2 days, and I was worried about you, so I came to see you." Shen Junchen looked very nervous, and his words were somewhat stumbling. "Thank you. I have nothing to do. I will go to school in a few days. Come in and sit down." Xia Zhu let Shen Junchen into the room. Shen Junchen handed over the lunchbox in his hand and said, "I found this on your door. I guess it was brought to you by your relatives, so I brought it in for you. My hometown is from northern Jiangsu, and I have no relatives in Shanghai. Did you take it by mistake?" "That's right. Look, I even left a note for you." Shen Junchen took out a note from the bag of the lunchbox and handed it to Xia Zhu. Xia Zhu took it and took a look at it. On it was a beautiful regular script written with a pen. "Sorry for the change. Take care of yourself." Xia Zhu was in a daze and did not pick up the lunchbox handed over by Shen Feng. Shen Junchen had no choice but to put the lunchbox on the table and said, "Xia Zhu, we are classmates. You must not be polite to me. If there is anything you need help with, just say, 'I think I can still be of some help.'" Xia Zhu got up and went to pour water for Shen Junchen. Shen Junchen said quickly, "Xia Zhu, please stop being busy. I'm not thirsty either." The weather is so cold. It's good to drink some hot water to warm yourself up. Xiaoju picked up the thermos bottle and found that there was no water in the thermos bottle at all. All the original hot water was used by herself. Xiaoju sighed and said, "You can't drink it if you want." Shen Junchen said hesitantly, "There is something I don't know if it is appropriate to tell you at this time." Xiaoju, "Go ahead, didn't you just say that? We are classmates. No need to be polite." Shen Junchen, "The day after tomorrow, my family will hold a small party. I have invited a few classmates from school. I originally wanted to invite you to go, but I didn't know if it would be convenient for you. After all, your father just passed away." Xiaoju thought for a long time in silence and said, "Thank you, Junchen. As long as there is nothing special, I will go. I think my father does not want his daughter to be unhappy in heaven." Shen Junchen was surprised at first, then almost jumped up with excitement and said happily, "Great, Xiaoju, it's great that you can think like this. When I came, I was worried that you would refuse, but now it's better. Now it's better." Xiaoju was very surprised. It was a very common thing for her to attend a party at his house. How could it make him so happy? After chatting for a while, Shen Junchen saw that Xiaoju was a little absent-minded, and then Shen Junchen stood up and left. After sending Shen Junchen away, Xiaoju eagerly opened the lunchbox. Her absent-mindedness was also caused by the smell in the lunchbox, because judging from the taste, Xiaoju also knew that the lunchbox must be her favorite cake and oyster omelette. Xiaoju had been hungry for a long time. Shen Junchen kept talking to her here, so she never had the nerve to eat in front of him. As for who sent this lunchbox, Xiaoju was also thinking about it. While eating, she mentally filtered the dozen or so neighbors in this single-story building to see who was most likely to send food to her. Grandma Lu downstairs? Impossible! If Grandma Lu sent something, she would have to talk to him for at least an hour before she could stop. Grandpa Wang next door? It also seems unlikely. He has delivered food before, but it was always cooked at his own home and delivered while it was still hot. This is how neighbors always come and go. The one in the far west, a Chi, who peeks at him all day long. That guy seems like he often doesn't have enough to eat, and it's even more impossible. In her wild thoughts, Xiaoju finished 2 portions of oyster omelette. After eating and resting for a while, she picked up her lunchbox and went to the kitchen to wash it. This lunchbox is a round and flat metal lunchbox that is not quite Chinese, but it does look like something used by foreigners. Xiaoju wiped the lunchbox dry with a rag. When she reached the bottom, she noticed the 2 words engraved on the bottom, Gao Fei. These are words carved with a hard and sharp tool such as a knife. The handwriting is in beautiful regular script, which is both neat and elegant. Gao Fei? This should be a person's name. Could it be the owner of this lunchbox? There are 2 reasons for engraving names on lunchboxes. The first reason is that the owner of this lunchbox is extremely bored and has nothing to do to carve his own or other people's names on it. The second reason is the most likely. This person lives in a group and there are so many lunchboxes of the same style there, so they are marked for easy distinction. Who could this Gao Fei be? There is no one named Gao among my neighbors, and there is no one named Gao in this building. Xiaoju thought for a long time, but couldn't come up with a clue. People are like this. Many times when they have no other choice, they will force themselves to come up with a way, although sometimes that way may seem somewhat ridiculous. Xiaoju just came up with a solution. She put the cleaned lunchbox back into the cotton bag and hung it back at her door. At night, Xiaoju opened the door and saw something strange happened. Another piece of cake and oyster omelette was hung on the door. There is also a note in the bag with the same handwriting. Heaven moves vigorously. A gentleman strives for self-improvement. The terrain is weak. A gentleman carries things with kindness. Xiaoju pondered the meaning of this sentence, and her thoughts about eating became less intense. This was really a strange thing. The person who brought her food seemed to be a very educated scholar. So, Xiaoju began to analyze among her classmates. After analyzing a long list of names, She could not think of anyone who would play such an unpredictable game. The most important thing was that not many of her classmates knew where she lived. In the next few days, this lunchbox with the word Gao Fei engraved on it became an unsolvable puzzle in Xia Ju's mind. Sometimes Xia Ju hung the lunchbox on the door. After waiting for a while, she would suddenly open the door and check. Either the lunchbox was gone or the empty lunchbox was still hanging on the door. She never saw the person delivering the meal. Later, this became a tacit game, especially when Xia Ju was sure that this person had no malicious intent. For a 20-year-old girl who was curious about everything, this was really an interesting and exciting game. The content of the note that came with the lunchbox also gradually changed, from some excerpted words and sentences at first to some purely personal random writing such as, "The weather is dry, drink more water. It's raining today, try not to go out," and so on. The occurrence of this incident relieved Xia Ju's pain caused by losing her father to a great extent because she had hope every day, not just for a simple meal of food, but for that indescribable spiritual communication.